Our next awardee is also from the class of 1954, Stan Fischler. He's a broadcaster, an author, professor, historian of hockey and the New York City subway. His half-century of covering hockey includes nearly 40 years as a broadcaster for the New York Islanders. Stan has authored or co-authored more than 80 books and received many journalism awards, plus 77 Emmy Awards for broadcasting. Stan, will you join us, please?
Thank you. When Marla told me all about this, I nearly plotzed. You know why? She said, you only have 2 minutes. I said, I always tell a joke before every speech. I said, I'm gonna have to tell you the world's fastest joke. Guy walks into a bank, goes up to the woman teller, says, can you check my balance? And she pushed him. Somebody wrote a song, you made me what I am today, and I hope you're satisfied. Well, I'm satisfied. Brooklyn did very well by me. I was stunned and overwhelmed when I saw the guy walk in here, sit down, and the guy who really made my career, and that's Bud Rosenthal. I wanted to be a hockey writer. I wanted to write hockey. Brooklyn didn't have a hockey team. Didn't even have a newspaper. They went from the Vanguard to a nothing, and then Kingsman came along. And I walked into the office. I went over to Bud. Hey, Bud, come on, stand up. And so they know who the hell you are. No. I went there. This guy didn't know me from, he didn't know me from Moishe Oisha. And I said, listen, I wanna write something like hockey. He said, you're our soccer writer. Imagine my surprise and my luck. And I walked in to cover the best team we had. We had a championship team. George Andriadis, who I spoke to the other day, was one of the stars. The championship game right down here with City, where we beat the hated Beavers. It was all thanks to Bud. So I had my first byline. But one of the things I got out of Brooklyn that led to my career in broadcasting with MSG Network is that it developed a lot of my personality and humor. And one of my best profs was a speech teacher named Mary McCarthy, and she taught us speech, but she also was very humorous. And believe it or not, thanks to Bud, who enabled me to become a journalist, and thanks to Mary McCarthy, I did two things that I don't think many of you can say, and that is, number one, I interview penguins, and number two, you think I'm kidding. Here's the proof. I interview the penguins. Not kidding. You can have it. You can have an autographed copy. The penguins aren't around. That was at the opening. That was at the opening of the aquarium in 1956, and Mary, who had been my mentor, said, well, when if you ever talk to penguins, you got to tell me the inimitable New York story, which is guys walking down Fifth Avenue arm in arm with two penguins. Cop goes over and he says, you can't do this. I give you a summons. He says, what do you mean? He says, against the law to do this. Take those penguins to the Bronx Zoo right now or I give you a ticket. Jumps in a cab, goes to the Bronx Zoo. Next day, the cop's walking a beat in front of St. Patrick's. Cop pulls up to the red light at 5th and 50th. There's the same guy in the car, and in the back seat are the same two penguins, except the penguins are wearing glasses. Sunglasses. So the cop goes over to the guy. He says, I thought I told you to take those penguins to the Bronx Zoo yesterday. He says, I did, and they loved it. Now we're going to Coney Island. So I learned a little humor. I learned a little humor at Brooklyn College, but I have to tell you, I learned also about cheap dates. And Mr. Jack Merlis, please stand up, who was the star of the Light Opera Guild in Deflate a Mouse. He says, come and see me. I said, how much? He said, it was $50 or whatever the hell it was. I took my date, and from that point on, we go to the Light Opera Guild. Cheap date, great But Jack was sensational and always an inspiration to see him. So on top of that, you go to Brooklyn College, you got to get a job eventually, right? I want to get into hockey. So we had a faculty advisor, his name was William Pitt. And Professor Pitt was related to the great Pitts of yesteryear. I walk in, he says, what do you want to do? I said, I want to get into hockey. He says, wait a minute. He picks up the phone, he calls up Stan Saplin, who was then the top hockey writer with the New York Journal-American. Stan says, bring him over or send him over. I had lunch with Saplin the next day. I got out of Brooklyn College in 1954, and that September, I'm working for the New York Rangers. So Brooklyn College, phone call, bang, gets me the job. How can you beat something like that? I also learned a little bit of French from Professor Godin, who was excellent, and I took French because I was hoping to get into hockey, a lot of French Canadians, and that was tremendous. And along with Bud, who really launched my career, had a Professor Phil Leddy, who was as good as anybody could ever come. And Phil, we only had one, it was Journalism 101, and we didn't get a lot of time because of that one class, didn't have all the extras, but we learned a hell of a lot from Phil. And Phil once took one of my papers, and he looked at it and he said, Stanley, I have to give you a bit of news. You are not writing for the Times of London. And from that time on, I learned how to write. Phil was tremendous. I got very lucky throughout my career, wound up in television against my will, but always wanted to write. So I did my writing on the side. I worked hockey, covered many Stanley Cups, and all because of Brooklyn College. And I'll symbolize what this means to me with a final joke. Okay? A potato walks into a bar, goes up to the bartender. The bartender says, you're a potato. What the hell are you doing here in my bar? And the potato says, well, among other things, I'm celebrating the fact that I can walk. I am celebrating the fact that I am here, and I thank you.